Hello, and welcome to Dark Hearts with Stacy Lee. A couple of years ago, I brought you the story of Megan Huntsman, known as the most hated woman in Utah. This is the thumbnail for that episode. If you'd like to watch it, it's on my playlist, Dining with Death. But there is a story out there with some similarities. This story comes out of Australia, and it is also very disturbing. Today, we are talking about a woman who had unwanted pregnancy after unwanted pregnancy. Why did she continue to allow this to happen? What makes these women behave so strangely? And what goes wrong in the mind of a mother that causes her to act in completely opposite ways of those we expect from women who have children? And the biggest question for today, where is baby Tegan Lane? Today we are talking about the incredible and disturbing story of Killer Keli. I'm your host, Stacy Lee. Let's begin. Keli Lane was born in Fairlight, New South Wales. She had a normal upbringing by all accounts. She played water polo and was known to be exceptional at it. Her mother is a woman named Sandra Lane, who is a hospital worker, and her father is Robert Lane, a retired police officer. Keli attended McKellar Girls' School in Manly and then studied for an arts degree at University of Newcastle. She dropped out of college and got a job working part-time at Ravenswood School for Girls as a water polo coach. Ravenswood School for Girls, I thought she would be teaching potions or... Man, our schools over here have boring names compared to that. Ravenswood. Keli was well-liked, she was respected, and people describe her as you'd expect. Kind, she was sporty, she was friendly and approachable. She was then offered a full-time teaching position at Ravenswood, and the yearbook lists her as having a teaching certificate. Now, maybe things are different in Australia, but here in the States, you cannot achieve a teaching degree through work experience. You must go to college and receive a bachelor's degree, and then do what we call student teaching, which means that while you are still a student, you act as a teacher with a certified teacher as your mentor. So either the requirements are different in Australia or Keli was not actually an accredited teacher because she did not graduate from college. In 1994, when Keli was only 19 years old, she got involved in a relationship with a man named Duncan Gilles, who was a professional rugby player. That relationship lasted until 1998. During that relationship, Keli was awarded a spot on the silver medal winning Australian junior women's team. That team competed in 1995 at the World Championships in Quebec. When Keli competed as part of this team, she had been through something pretty traumatic. Months before the competition, Keli had given birth to her first child. She gave that child up for adoption, and for whatever reason, we're going to go into some of the possibilities later on, this triggered something in Keli. But there is now evidence that even before this birth and subsequent adoption, something was very wrong in the mind of Keli Lane. Keli continued to play and coach water polo, but there were times when those close to her at school could see something was off. Keli's weight fluctuated dramatically. There were even rumors of a baby bump, but Keli never told anyone she was pregnant and no one ever saw a baby. So it was strange, but people thought, well, if she wanted us to know what was going on, she would tell us. And they didn't speak up. Now, this happened over and over, where Keli would put on weight. People would think, is she pregnant? And then no baby. It is now believed that Keli was pregnant 5 times over 7 years during the 1990s. 5 times. Birth control is so simple to use, my friends. It's cheap, it's easy to use, and I just personally don't understand this. There are medical records to indicate that Keli terminated her first 2 pregnancies and that the baby that she placed up for adoption was actually her 3rd pregnancy. During this third pregnancy, she carried the fetus to term and then gave the baby up for adoption. Again, just months before competing in this world championship polo match. It is Keli's fourth pregnancy that brought attention to the situation and ended up changing not only Keli's life, but many other lives as well. On September 12th, 1996, Tegan Lee Lane was born to Keli. The little girl was conceived during a brief affair Keli had with a man that Keli claims is named Andrew Morris. She then says Norris later on. Keli was kept here in the hospital at Auburn Health Services with the baby for 2 days, and she was discharged about 48 hours after the birth. So Keli leaves the hospital with her newborn baby, and then a few hours after being discharged from the hospital, Keli is seen in these images celebrating at a friend's wedding on the other side of Sydney, and baby Tegan is not with her. Not only is Tegan not with her mother 2 days after her birth, Tegan is never seen again. Now, you would think this would raise the alarm. A missing baby? Is there anything more horrifying than that? You'd think there'd be missing posters and a police investigation, but there was not. Because you see, Keli Lane did not tell a single soul that she had been pregnant or that she had delivered a baby. No one knew. Not the father, not Keli's parents, not her friends, no one. No one but a very dogged social worker, that is. And that is only because Keli Lane later tells this person something that tips him off. This seems crazy, but 3 years go by. And then, 3 years after Tegan was born, Keli Lane was pregnant again. In May of 1999, Keli gave birth to a boy who she decided to put up for adoption again. So this was her fifth pregnancy that we know of. The first 2 pregnancies were terminated. The third baby was put up for adoption. Tegan is missing, and now there is a 5th pregnancy resulting in a birth. Keli was assigned a social worker during the adoption, as is the usual protocol in Australia. As Keli has a conversation with her social worker, she tells the social worker that this was her first child. The social worker has to ask who is the child's father, and Keli tells him Duncan Gill. So the social worker follows up with Duncan. The social worker has a responsibility to talk to the father. He goes to Duncan, and Duncan tells the social worker, absolutely not. I haven't seen Keli in a year, and that is not my child. Duncan would also later say that he had no idea Keli had multiple pregnancies. He was later very shocked to hear this. So the social worker is now intrigued. Why is this woman lying, or is the man lying? What's going on here? And as the social worker works to find a permanent home for Keli's 5th baby, he continues to look into who the father might be. There are laws that state a father must be informed when a woman is looking to give a child up for adoption. It's only fair that the father be given the chance to adopt the child, right? So the social worker is doing his due diligence and trying to uncover the man's identity in order to inform him that his child is being put up for adoption. The social worker then confronts Keli, telling her, I have discovered records of previous pregnancies that you have terminated 2 pregnancies and had 1 other live birth before putting this boy up for adoption. At first, Keli denies these claims. She said, no, this is my first pregnancy. And the social worker's like, here are your medical records. You've been here before. You've terminated pregnancies and you've had another baby. You've been pregnant before. The social worker continues to appear at Keli's house, and she finally admits that yes, she did have 2 prior pregnancies that were terminated, and that yes, she did give birth to a daughter in 1996. Of course, the social worker wants to know where this baby is. And Keli then tells him that, oh, that baby, which I guess is Tegan, was living with a family in Perth. Now the social worker has a responsibility to follow up and ensure that this child is okay. So the social worker contacts authorities in Perth, who begin looking for this now 3-year-old child seen leaving the hospital as a newborn and then never seen again. So they're searching Sydney and they're searching Perth, or so the social worker thinks. This is so wild. The social worker makes the report to the police in Perth about this child, and it takes the police in Perth 15 months to get around to looking for this child, and I would really like an explanation on that. How in the hell does it take a police department more than a year to follow up on a request made by a social worker to find a missing and unaccounted for child? That is shocking to me. Sounds to me like child services don't just suck here in America, but in other places as well. So after the police decide to get around to looking for this missing child, they contact the social worker back in Sydney and tell him, "We cannot find this baby. These claims of Keli's that Tegan is with her father cannot be verified, and the baby is not here." So remember, another 15 months has gone by, and Keli is pregnant again with her 6th pregnancy. I just cannot believe how long this dragged on. But it is then when the police finally decide it's time to talk to Keli.
In your words, can you just explain to us the circumstances of when the child was born and what happened subsequent to that?
After a brief affair with the father of the child, I gave birth. We made an arrangement that he would come and take custody of Tegan, as I was unable to take care of her myself.
The natural father of the child is an Andrew Morris, is that correct?
That's correct.
It's now February of 2001. Keli is insistent that she gave Tegan to this mystery man named Andrew Morris and that she is living with a family in Perth. Tegan is. Keli claims that she met Andrew in Balmain, or do you say it Balmain, in Australia? Australian viewers, please let me know. But she was there on a Friday night in a pub called The Townie. Keli tells the police that she went home with Andrew that night, and when they got to his apartment, she saw that he was living with a woman because there were women's clothes strewn about the apartment. Keli said she later found out that Andrew had a girlfriend named Melanie, and that Melanie worked in retail. For whatever reason, Melanie was always gone on Friday nights, and Andrew was known to bring women back to this apartment, and he was known to cheat on Friday nights. I mean, okay. Anybody want to tell Melanie that? I mean, I'm just saying. The police begin to ask Keli why she felt as though she was forced to hide her pregnancies, and she tells them that she thought her parents and friends would be upset with her. The police ask why, and she said, well, because I was sleeping with a lot of guys, and I wasn't sure of who the father of any of the babies were. Keli, whatever, but just use protection, girl. Not only birth control, but are you not worried about your health? Sleep with whoever you want. I don't care. But are you not using protection with strangers? That makes me nervous. I keep talking about how I'm really frustrated with shitty parents lately because I think bad parenting leads to a lot of the crime and a lot of the mental problems that we see in the true crime community. But Keli, I mean, she kind of takes the cake in some elements. So the cops continue to pressure Keli for more details, and she tells them that she met this man, Andrew Morris, in the parking lot of the Auburn Hospital on the day that she and Tegan were discharged. The cops continue to pressure Keli for more details. She tells them that she gave Tegan to her father, that she met this Andrew Morris person in the parking lot of Auburn Hospital on the day she and Tegan were discharged, and that she just handed the baby over to him and she's never seen her since. This investigation into where this missing baby is goes on for 2 more years. I'm sorry, what? 2 more years without any sort of legal action taken against the mother of a missing child who cannot give the police any information as to where the child is. 2 years? How is this woman just walking around free with a missing child? Keli is brought in for another round of interrogation in 2003, and that is when she tells the police, you know what? Oh, maybe Tegan's father name is Andrew Norris with an N, not Morris with an M. I mean, you have got to be kidding me, Keli.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm confused.
Do you know the father of the child's name?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
Andrew Norris.
Norris?
Yes.
Okay. Did you kill the child?
No, I did not. I did not do anything like that.
Someone else?
No.
The police are on to Keli, and finally, after years of investigation, it seems they've decided to do something about it. Keli then gives birth to another daughter, and this time she keeps the baby. So this is the 6th pregnancy for Keli that we know of. 2 terminated pregnancies, 2 adoptions, 1 missing child, and now a baby that Keli has kept. The police decide they are going to tap Keli's phones and secretly begin recording her conversations. In one phone call, Keli tells tells one of her closest friends that she is terrified the police are going to come and take her daughter away from her. She tells this friend that she used to worry about being a sports star and she wanted to win championships, and now all she's worried about is being a mom. Keli also tells this friend that she's terrified that her parents are going to find out about all of these pregnancies and about the fact that she'd been sleeping around with men who had gotten her pregnant and she didn't even know who they were. Really don't think anyone would care about that if she wasn't getting pregnant. Keli tells this friend on this recorded phone call that she knows this information is going to get out and it's going to embarrass her parents. Her friend tries to reassure her that that might not happen, but Keli is crying and she's inconsolable. I mean, yep, Keli, actions do have consequences. That is a thing that does happen. And it's just also unnecessary. It is so simple to prevent pregnancy. The police decide it's time to turn up the heat and they go to Keli's parents and they inform them of all Keli's pregnancies. As you can imagine, they were shocked, they were hurt, they were angry. I mean, finding out that they have not just a grandchild, but a missing grandchild. Not only do they have a missing grandchild, they have 2 other grandchildren they don't know about that have been adopted out. I bet they couldn't even wrap their minds around it. The police wiretaps then reveal that Sandra Lane, Keli's mother, continues to call her daughter asking where Tegan is. Sandra asks, "Was the child still alive 3 years ago when you were first questioned?" And Keli tells them, "As far as I know, and I'm assuming she's still alive." But as we know, this continued for years, which is mind-blowing again to me. This woman has a missing child that she cannot account for, and she is not arrested. She is not brought before a judge. She's not put in jail. It seems to me to be an abject failure on the part of the police and the people put in charge of making sure that children are safe. This goes on until 2004. The police continue to tap Keli's phones and interrogate her. 2005 comes and goes. In 2006, the police begin to focus more on locating this elusive Andrew Morris Norris, his supposed girlfriend Melanie, who works in retail, and then they try finding a mother and a father for Andrew Morris or Norris, anyone who might be able to verify any part of Keli's story. By 2006, Keli Lane had told the police 9 different versions of what happened on the day she left the hospital with Tegan. 9. She is on tape telling 9 different versions of what happened with this baby. To me, it is appalling and disturbing that this woman has not been arrested at this point. She better be thankful that she lives in Australia and not here in the States, because if she lived here, she would have been in a cage by 2000. I would like to think anyway. The police continue to try and find Andrew Morris or Norris, Melanie, or anyone related to them for another year. The cops searched the records of over 9,000 primary schools in Australia, and this process took 2 years. In each and every record search, the police could account for the child and trace that child back to its parents or legal guardians, eliminating any possibility that the child could be Tegan. Every little girl named Tegan was investigated thoroughly. The search went nationwide as the police tried and tried to locate this little girl. Finally, after years of investigation, on November 17th, 2009, Keli Lane was charged with the murder of her daughter Tegan. It took that long for the cops to become convinced that Keli had done something to this poor little girl. Keli pled not guilty at her first hearing, and a trial was calendared. Keli Lane's murder trial begins. The Crown alleged that Keli had been pregnant 6 times and that her 4th pregnancy ended up in murder. The jury listened intently as the prosecutors told them how Keli hid her pregnancies, how she was obsessed with her reputation and her personal image. The prosecutor told the jury that Keli was focused on her athletic career and that because of her irresponsible actions, she'd found herself pregnant over and over. It also comes out at trial that Keli did not leave the hospital with Tegan at 2:00 in the afternoon as she originally stated, but hours earlier, giving her more opportunity to murder the infant and dispose of the body before she was seen later on in the evening at this friend's wedding. I mean, this is really ghoulish when you stop and think about it. There is nothing more helpless, than a newborn infant. And it's something that is so precious to so many of us. I mean, there's nothing more precious than a newborn. And this woman is treating them like such a burden. And I understand not everybody wants kids. I get that. And there's nothing wrong with that. But then don't get pregnant. If you have an unwanted pregnancy, if you are assaulted, you should be allowed to terminate. But 6 times, Keli? The Crown told the jury that Keli believed having children would interfere with her social life, with her educational plans, and that she had been so focused on playing water polo at the Sydney 2000 Olympic Games, she was willing to get rid of anything that got in her way, even a baby. The trial was an absolute media circus. Keli's parents were accosted every day outside the courtroom. They despised the press and later told 60 Minutes Australia that they tried to tell their side of the story, but nobody was interested. Now, Keli's parents, I can't imagine what they've been through. I don't even want to put myself in their shoes. But to this day, they stand staunchly behind their daughter, claiming they do not believe for a second that Keli killed Tegan. I appreciate their loyalty and their support. I do. I'll just leave it at that. On December 13th, 2010, Keli Lane was found guilty of lying under oath with regards to the adoptions of 2 of her babies, but the jury was not able to come to a unanimous verdict on the murder charge. In Australia, the judge has some options when this happens. So the judge gave the jury the option of returning a majority vote one way or the other, but it had to be 11-1. Either way. Hours later, the jury returned with a verdict of guilty. The jury believed that Keli Lane had killed her own child. Months later, Keli was sentenced. On April 15th, 2011, Keli was sentenced to 18 years in jail with no possibility of parole for 13 years. Keli immediately launched appeal after appeal. A taxi driver then came forward to claim that he'd witnessed Keli dump a baby in a swampy area near Manly. What? You saw a woman dumping a baby and you did nothing? Hang this guy out to dry too. Are you kidding me? As Keli appealed her conviction, she was routinely beaten up by other inmates. I mean, Keli claims she's never been beaten up. The prison says otherwise. The prison records show she's been beaten up. This woman is someone who cannot accept any type of what she views as a defeat in her life. She won't admit she was sleeping around. Who cares? She won't admit she got pregnant over and over. She won't admit she did anything to Tegan. She won't even admit to getting her ass beat in prison. She's what I call a liar and denier. She believed she could deny her way out of this too, but it didn't work. In 2018, a documentary was produced on this case, and it has remained a subject of fascination in Australia. This psychologist, a woman named Dr. Mallard, has begun communicating with Keli, and she has also become an advocate for Keli's retrial. This doctor speaks with Keli on a regular basis and says that Keli's main concern is getting out and coming home to her daughter, and I feel for that. Keli's daughter is now a teenager, and she asks when her mother is coming home over and over. This must be incredibly difficult for this girl. This doctor, that is Keli's advocate, states that Keli was unfairly judged at trial because she was promiscuous and the jury didn't like her. Didn't like the fact that she kept getting pregnant over and over, and didn't like the fact that she slept with men she wasn't in a relationship with. I do think there might have been some judgment there, but also bullshit. Keli was judged on the fact that her daughter is nowhere to be found. We all know that women are unfairly judged when they are victimized. People say, what was she wearing? Was she walking alone? Had she been drinking? And other shit like that. That happens. There is no denying that, and I hope we can all agree on that. This is not that. What Keli did is not that. This is a woman who might have been sleeping around. Again, I don't care about that. But a woman who was judged on the fact that she doesn't know and cannot prove where her daughter is or that she is even alive. If she wanted this child to be adopted out, she should have gone through the usual and legal proceedings like she did with the other 2 babies that were adopted out. I think she thought, well, I've already adopted a baby and they're going to say to me, how are you in this position again? Okay, maybe they would have said that. But you decide then to kill the baby? Murder rather than face the judging eyes of a few strangers during the adoption process? That is who I believe Keli Lane to be. I believe she's egotistical. I believe she's competitive. And I think she cared more about what people thought about her and her reputation than she did about the life of an innocent baby. Then a witness comes forward to tell the media that they were not allowed to testify at Keli's trial, and this witness has a lot to say. This is Natalie McCauley, and she claims to have been very close friends of Keli's when Keli got pregnant with Tegan and after Tegan was born. Natalie comes forward and tells the police and the media that she knows Andrew Norris exists because Keli told Natalie about him. I could not find information as to why Natalie was not allowed to testify at Keli's trial. Natalie tells the press that she and Keli grew up together. They've been friends since childhood. She tells a reporter that Keli would talk about Andrew off and on for about 3 months in the summer of 1996. She was having kind of a fling with him. Natalie claims she remembers this fling specifically because the two ladies were turning 21 and it was an exciting summer for them. Natalie says the police interviewed her for 5.5 hours and only wrote down a page of information. She says that the police had made up their minds that Keli killed Tegan because a baby didn't fit into her plans of being an Olympic athlete, and nothing anyone said was going to change the minds of the cops. They had decided Keli did this, and in Natalie's opinion, nothing she could say was going to change it. Natalie claims she feels guilty, that Keli didn't feel she could talk to her when she kept getting pregnant, and that she failed her as a friend. I'm glad Keli has so many compassionate people in her life. I'm glad to know these types of people still exist. Her parents, Natalie, this psychologist. I do not, however, agree with them. We all make mistakes. Each and every one of us makes mistakes, and we often make a huge mistake like getting pregnant when we don't want to be. That happens. What is not as easy to accept is someone who makes that huge mistake over and over and over again. And I personally don't think these apologists are holding Keli accountable for her actions, and especially for the fact that Tegan is missing and most likely dead. That's just my opinion. Keli's case has raised the attention of a group of attorneys that are like the Innocence Project here in the States, and this group has taken on Keli's case. The attorneys began working with Keli when she requested that they review her trial. The main angle that these attorneys are coming from is that no body has ever been found, and it's very unusual in Australia to have a murder conviction without a body. Attorneys worked on the case throughout 2016, 17, and into 2020. They were never successful in getting Keli a new trial. Keli came up for parole in 2022 and she was denied. A big part of the reason is because Australia now has a law in place called no body, no parole. What does that mean? The law is rooted in killers who police are convinced have murdered someone where no body has been found. And if the killer refuses to cooperate with the police and tell them where the body is, where the remains are, the killer is not going to get parole. No body, no parole. Keli came up for parole again in March of 2024. Again, she was denied based on the same law. The parole board cited the fact that Keli has refused to tell the police where the body of baby Tegan is, and that this new law requires she must cooperate in order to be released on parole. The judge in Keli's case has spoken publicly about the fact that Keli has done her time, and he believes that she should be released, and that this no body, no parole law should not retroactively apply to Keli. But Keli is given day release from time to time, and she's able to have a job. She recently got in trouble for having a mobile phone while on work release. She was in a transitional living center, and she may now be facing prison again for this violation. Now, that kind of proves to me that this is a woman who just has a very difficult time following the laws and the rules that apply to the rest of us. Keli is pushing 50 years old, and she is still breaking the rules and hiding things from others in order to get what she wants. I feel for Keli's parents and I feel for her children. I can't imagine how difficult this has been for them. What I really want to hope is that when Keli is finally released, she decides to change her ways and become a great mother and a better member of society. And I hope that one day we know what happened to baby Tegan. Thank you for joining me today on Dark Hearts with Stacy Lee. Please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you want to support me. It helps a lot. You can also listen to my podcasts. This one's called Dining with Death. This is the current podcast called Dark Hearts with Stacy Lee. I post new episodes of Dark Hearts every Monday and every Wednesday. Both podcasts are on Apple, Spotify, and Amazon. I want to say a special thank you to all of my patrons. You guys that donate a few dollars a month to help me keep the episodes coming are really the only reason that I'm still here. So thank you. And if you're interested in trying to help our community solve a cold case, watch this little video on my channel. It's a few minutes long, and it will tell you everything we are doing to donate money to police departments that have cold case DNA in storage that's never been tested. We're about halfway to our first goal. I hope you're enjoying Thanksgiving week. I think about you, and I wish you happiness and health. Stay safe, my friends, and be kind to each other. And I will see you next time on Dark Hearts with Stacy Lee. Bye.